Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good afternoon. Welcome to the Tuesday edition here of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Radio Central from the center of your dial, center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830 WCRN. Now, you can join the conversation over the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And our text line is running today at 297-8388. That's 617-297-8388. You can text it like you would anyone else. It appears on a screen here in the studio in real time. We try to work it into the conversation. Now, we do stream to the TuneIn app like thousands of other radio stations do, but you need to go there, get that app if you don't have it, punch in WCRN. You'll see our cool logo, the one behind me if you're watching the streaming. Do me a favor, hit the like button. We know you're there, and then we're easy to find, and I love that feature because you can take us anywhere. It's fantastic. Or you can tell Alexa to play WCRN, and she'll do that, no questions asked. Now, I do stream my show all the time, whether I'm here or at the Cameo Studios, so that means you can watch it on the station's Facebook page, YouTube channel, my Facebook page, my X account, Twitch TV, a LinkedIn profile, and Rumble. Multiple ways to watch, multiple ways to listen. Today, behind the glass flying aboard today, they'll get you set up and into the studio here for two-way talking conversation if you'd like to join that conversation. All right. Before we get into today's topics and stories, I do need to take a moment to share some important news with you. After many years of dedicated service here at WCRN, Peter Blute is stepping away from his longtime Sunday morning program due to health reasons. He is addressing it and taking care of that. But Peter has been a respected voice on the station for a very long time. A former congressman, a seasoned broadcaster, and a man who built Sunday mornings from 9 to noon into one of the most thoughtful and well-listened to shows in Worcester County. Week after week, listeners tuned in for his intelligence, his steady perspective, and the dignity he brought to every conversation. Now, he didn't just host a program, he actually created a tradition. On behalf of all of us at WCRN, I want to say thank you, Peter. Thank you for your years of service, your professionalism, and the standard you set for talk radio in this market. You've been a trusted friend to this audience and a class act behind the microphone. We wish you strength and comfort and the very best as you focus on your health. You will always be part of the WCRN family. As one chapter does close, another does begin. Starting this Sunday, I will move from the weekend afternoons I do into the Sunday morning 9:30 to noon slot. Now, I'll continue with the Wednesday afternoon time slot, but that's it. No longer do Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And we step into those hours with a deep respect for the foundation Peter built and with gratitude for the loyal listeners who made Sunday mornings meaningful on WCRN. Peter, thank you again. Get well, my friend. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. I got a text a few days ago. I've gotten a lot of texts asking, where is Peter? How is Peter doing? And so forth. And the thing on that is until I talk to Peter, what's going on with him is his story to tell, not mine. But I had a very long and nice conversation with Peter Sunday while he was in rehab. He does have his phone. He's taking phone calls and all that. So we had a very pleasant conversation. And he said, we got to make some changes because this is going to be a while. And he thanked everything, thanked the station, thanked me for everything that we've done and understand all that. And I got a lot of texts and a lot of messages on Facebook, what's going on. Well, Peter has given me the blessing to say that he has health issues. He's in rehab and he's addressing them. And someday he may be back here. The door is always open. And I had a text the other day who was trying to, well, they're trying to remember, I guess. They were asking me, because Peter hasn't been on, what did he do again? When was he in Congress? All of that kind of stuff. And quickly, if you didn't know, he's a Republican from the Shrewsbury, Worcester area, and he did represent the 3rd Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives. He did it for 2 terms, starting in January of 93, and he went to January of 97. That would have been the 103rd and 104th Congress. He was a former Mass state rep, and that, again, he was able to take that state rep seat from an entrenched Democrat at the time. He defeated longtime Democratic incumbent in 92, and he won re-election in 94. Now, he did lose narrowly in 96, as we know, to Jim McGovern. And during his time in Washington, he focused on a lot of targeted bills, right, involving immigration and infrastructure, taxpayer protections, campaign finance, while serving in a district that had not elected a Republican guy since 1947. His congressional service marked a brief Republican foothold in a traditionally Democratic area at central and southeastern Massachusetts. And I actually remember the election night that he won his first seat, and it was crazy. It was in Worcester. I remember clearly. He also spoke at, I think, the first fundraiser at an outside venue. When I ran for state senate in 92, he spoke at the I had a private home fundraising thing, and then we did Ken Steakhouse, and Peter was there. As a matter of fact, in my office here at the station is an actual picture of Peter at the podium, and myself, my parents, and the Mangiacotti for State Senate signs and so forth in the back room of Ken's Steakhouse in Framingham, which was for many decades political powerhouse location, right? That's just where a lot of political things were held, fundraisers, politicians, judges, attorneys, DAs, ADAs, all 8 at Ken's over the years. And Peter spoke at that evening, and I've always thanked him for that. And every once in a while, he'd, if I happen to be here when he was in, say, during the week or something, he'd step in the office and pause for a second, and he'd look at that picture. He was such a young-looking man. So was I, of course. That was 30 some odd years ago. So much different. Yeah, exactly. But that's the deal with Peter Blute. And I'm looking forward to doing the Sunday mornings, keeping the lines open, keeping it all over the place, and really keeping the microphone available to everyone, because that's what it's supposed to be about. But I'll stay on the Wednesday. Meanwhile, you can always subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. The handle for everything is Joe Mangiacotti Show. So if you go to Spotify, iHeartRadio, what have you, that's how you can subscribe. And I always found it interesting because I look at the stats for the downloads of the podcast and where people are that they listen to it. And the biggest download platform is iHeartRadio. I thought it'd be Spotify. It's Spotify's second, iHeartRadio's the first place that people download the podcast of this show onto. And the fact that I have people in, Belgium and Japan and Taiwan who are listening regularly is kind of interesting as well as South America, because I think I mentioned this before. It was explained to me because I think I couldn't understand why so many people on Facebook were watching this show. Didn't think English might have been that common in certain parts like Guatemala, Venezuela, Mexico. Then it was pointed out to me, actually by my fiance, that the Facebook AI is so good in the closed caption, so good and so fast that you can just set it to Spanish, and the closed caption will print out in Spanish what I'm saying in English in real time. So for those in South, that explains to me why there's so many people watching it from Spanish-speaking countries so readily. Anyway, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. It's 7,000. Lines are open and available. Ted will get you set up and into there. Now, what's interesting, well, two things. Let me do the today's SCOTUS decision because that broke today in an 8-1 decision. I think they mentioned it in the news break. The U.S. Supreme Court, SCOTUS, ruled against Colorado's. This was a 2019 bill. It was called Minor Conversion Therapy Law. The case is Childs versus Salazar. And basically, the law prohibited licensed mental health professionals. So these would be PhDs, MDs, masters in psychology, any licensed mental health professional from providing conversion therapy. Now that's basically talk therapy intended to change a minor's sexual orientation or gender identity. What's important here is that they are minors, and that this is a licensed health professional. These are key points, I think, in this argument. Now, I understand there's a knee-jerk reaction in the dissenting is Conjania Brown Jackson on this, but I look at her and I go, you're clearly doing this over activism and, your base or just your personal feelings and not the law, whereas the other 8 justices got it right. Now, there is other degrees of conversion therapy in some of these, fanatic, maybe religious camps, but that's another conversation. This was saying that they're going to outlaw your ability as a licensed therapist, a medical professional, to have a conversation with your client, minor client, about their sexuality in a talk therapy way. And this was intended to change a minor's sexual orientation or their gender identity. We got to hold it here to take a break, but I'll pick it up on the other side. Again, 8-1 decision on that. And we'll dive down a little bit into what this means and what the Constitution says and how the 8 who got it right came to it. And, Jackson Brown, you got to have one in every crowd. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Don't forget the text line, 617-297-8388. Back in 2 minutes and 10 seconds, folks.
Kohler Park is the place to play. It's still the best ballpark in AAA. Unibank fireworks every Friday. Sunset catches every Saturday. And kids run the bases every Sunday. Visit WooSox.com or call 508-500-8888 and get your tickets today. Kohler Park is the place to play. It's still the best ballpark in AAA.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772-1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
Moving, don't wrestle with it. Bring the muscle. Mighty Movers. Whether it's your home or your business, Mighty Movers delivers fast, careful, professional service you can count on. From apartments to full houses, offices to commercial spaces, they handle every move with precision and care. One call and the heavy lifting is done. Visit mighty2movers.com. That's mighty2movers.com. mighty2movers.com. Or call 978-793-6165. 978-793-6165. Mighty Movers. When it's time to move, move with strength. All right, folks, welcome back here. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lines are open and available. I want to finish my thought on this, that this came down today, the 8-1 on this Colorado law, and it was the 2019 minor conversion therapy law case, Childs versus Salazar. And it was a therapist who fought this and said, this is ridiculous. You can't legislate what I can do in talk therapy and what I can have in a conversation. By the time they get licensed, they've gone through the education, they've gone through the training and all of that, and that is literally their job. And then the argument, of course, is, hey, well, we actually license you so we can tell you what you can talk. No, it doesn't work that way. The court ruled that. So to clients that are underage, that would be 18, Kaylee Childs, a Christian licensed counselor, and this is probably what really bothered them, a Christian licensed counselor in Colorado, she challenged that ban. She said, hey, it violates my First Amendment for free speech by preventing her from engaging in certain voluntary conversation with minors. And that's important because when your client, your patient's in front of you, they're voluntarily there, and you're there, your little job is talk therapy. And minors who sought counseling, may have aligned with their faith or their personal goals. So if she's a Christian counselor, they understand that this counselor is coming from a religious point of view, obviously. This was driving, obviously, people in Colorado crazy that they passed a law trying to silence her as a medical professional. In the lower courts in that area actually upheld the law as a regulation on professional conduct. And the Supreme Court majority held that the ban regulates speech based on a viewpoint. So it does raise a very serious First Amendment concern. So the court, SCOTUS, reversed the lower court and remanded the case for review under a stricter constitutional standard, and very few laws ever survived that process, by the way. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the lone dissenter, the ruling cast doubt on similar bans in more than 20 other states. So it's not just Colorado, and often in these cases, what happens is it's challenged. The court will take, meaning the Supreme Court, will take a case, and usually they look at the elements of it, and they decide from which state or which case that has been filed in a lower court are they going to take, knowing that when they render their decision, it will ripple through the other cases that are pending. So those other cases don't have to be heard because this sets the tone for all of that, and it goes on. So rule of law and free speech, First Amendment protects the content of conversations between licensed counselors and their willing clients. States can't selectively ban talk therapy, expressing disfavored viewpoints, especially on such deeply contested issues of sexuality, gender, morality, even science, while permitting opposing viewpoints. So that is, again, constant overreach. Sorry, folks, it tends to come from the left all the time, or maybe the progressives is the right term. That we agree or we believe in free speech as long as it's our speech, as long as what you're saying passes our, checks that is okay with us. If it dissents, if it's different, if it's opposing, no, we're going to put a law in. Ted, you wanted to jump in on that?
Yeah, this is another example of there being nothing democratic about the Democrat Party and nothing progressive about people who call themselves progressives.
Yeah, the irony of that is, right, that the term progressive often means exactly that. Not free speech, not expanding thought, but having a hive mentality, staying in line, following this. And again, over and over again, I had that conversation with the founder of Crowds on Demand, which cleared up a lot of stuff on my viewpoint of what they were. But these people constantly, I see the YouTubers out there and the clips, and they're just walking up to these people and asking them their positions or what this means, and they have no idea. They're just regurgitating stuff. What's scary is some of them can vote, but what's the saving grace there? Sometimes a lot of them don't. They may not be up in time to vote, or whatever the case is. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let me jump to the phones because Mark's waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, what say you?
I hope Peter's feeling better. Did he sound all right on the phone?
Yeah, he sounded all right. It's going to be a while in rehab, and and so he knows it's a long road ahead. And he said, you got to, do something, move on. We left the door open, Mark. He's always welcome back in some capacity if you'd like to come back.
What did he tell you what happened?
Yeah, I don't think that's up for me to say.
All right, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll leave it at that. Anyways, can I bring up Iran?
Absolutely.
I listen to a lot of talk radio because the TV today is. You talk about a boob tube. I mean, they have deliberately. I swear to God, in my opinion, the programmers.
Yeah.
Who program these various TV stations, and I don't care what they are,
Mm-hmm.
or who owns them. Okay, they dumbed the programming down to the lowest common denominator, and they've done it deliberately. I mean, how much Jerry Springer can you watch, for crying out loud? Who's the father? Who's the father? It's every channel, for Christ's sake. Either that or it's these judge shows. Judge this and judge. I mean, the lowest common denominator, dumbed down program that they could possibly put on there. And they're doing it deliberate. They're doing it deliberately.
Yeah.
So I got that off my chest. So, anyways, I was listening to the morning drive guy in Boston. I won't say the station. I won't say his name. He's got a large national audience. He's always, this guy was always MAGA, only mackerel. I mean, MAGA to the core. And all of a sudden, he don't like the war the way Trump is running it, and headset is too aggressive, and on and on and on. So anyways, he says he agrees with Trump, but he's in disagreement with the war. And I'm saying to myself, you didn't say anything about Israel. None of them do.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why, but we're not going to go there. But anyways, he doesn't say anything. Hey, dude, this is a joint effort. It's an Israeli military thing, and it's an American military thing. In other words, we're working together in order to decapitate the Iranian mullah theocracy, and we do not want them to have access to any kind of nuclear weapon. Period. End of story.
Yep.
And the reason we're there is to back up Israel. And anybody who says that I'm being anti-Semitic, no, not at all. What I'm doing is I'm stating the facts. And the fact is that the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, prior to this war, has stated that we will have regime change in Israel, and we will negate any nuclear capability that they have. And that he has said that multiple times in public on multiple venues over the last year. I'm talking about Netanyahu.
Yep.
So, in other words, what he's saying to me is speaking out of both sides of his mouth. And he ain't the only one doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark, you great points. I agree with that. Of course, it's funny when people say Pete Hegseth is too aggressive. He's the Secretary of War. I mean, his title kind of hints that you're going to have a very aggressive alpha male. So, that's just silly. Look,
You know what the military is there to do? It's really, people don't like to hear this. Their purpose really is to kill people and break things. Okay? That's why we have a military, and that's why we're in this joint effort with the Israelis.
yeah.
To
Mark, wasn't there?
to do what I say.
Didn't Patton say something? I totally got to paraphrase this. Something about it's my job to put their son of a B in the hospital before they put my guys in the hospital. Something. In other words, yes, exactly. The point of the military, not only to kill, but it's to inflict pain, wound people, to eat up resources. It's to destroy their ability to strike back. And we've been extremely successful in the mission here. And I know the left wants to spin this, that they're very unclear of the mission and, it keeps changing. No, just pay attention. Watch Trump talk. Watch Hexeth's oppressors. It's clear what's going on here, and there will be a regime. I mean, there's been 3 technically, right? Because we killed the first one, we killed the second one, and we don't even know what the condition of the parts of the third one is. But Mark, I'm against the clock. Final thought, real quick.
It's not like this is unprecedented. We helped the Israelis in the 67 war. We helped the Israelis, I believe it was in the 73 war, and we're helping them now.
Absolutely.
So this is the 3rd time we've done it in the last 60 years. It's not unprecedented. And whether we help them or not, they said they were going to finish this to the end. Anyways, I'm talking about the Israelis. So cut it out, fellas, and get with the program.
Mark. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it 100%. Look, and as far as I'm concerned, the so-called special allied relationship that we've had with the UK for years, in my opinion, has gone away, and Israel is certainly is now the contender for that special alliance between the United States and the country. But we're against the clock. More thoughts on that when I come back, but I do have to take the break because I don't control the breaks. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Text line 617-297-8388. Stick with us. Back in 2 minutes, 15 seconds, folks.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Tucker Antico, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. Showers this morning are giving way to cloudy but drier conditions in the afternoon. This evening, a brief round of storms, mainly north of the Pike, passes through. Will be warmest on our Wednesday, with highs reaching the upper 60s, even low 70s. But showers in the afternoon and a cold front drop temps back to upper 30s and low 40s on Thursday. I'm meteorologist Tucker Antico, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive, weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Gaitan Family Farms brings you terrific farm-to-table coffee from Guatemala's volcanic soils and the world's finest regions. Bold, aromatic, sustainably grown beans, picked and shipped straight to you for ultimate freshness. Crafted by third-generation farmer Silas Gaitan, it's coffee with heritage. Free shipping on all orders. Shop now at gaitanfarms.com and taste the difference.
This is Joe Mangiacotti, and for our WCRN listeners, we have a shortcut, bestcupofjoe.com. One word, bestcupofjoe.com. Gaitan Farms Coffee. It's fantastic coffee. If you've ever worried about a parent or a loved one eating well, here's a simple solution. Heart to Home Meals delivers great tasting, ready-to-eat frozen meals made with seniors in mind. With over 150 choices, it's easy to find meals that fit different tastes and dietary needs. There's no subscription and no minimum order. And delivery is always free. Heart to Home Meals, a smart, comforting way to make sure good food is always close by. HeartToHomeMeals.com. All right, folks, welcome back here. Second half of the Tuesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN starting next week. I'll just be here on Wednesdays and then on Sundays 9:30 to noon as Peter takes a break and moves on to get healthy and work on his health. And we wish him the very best, as I outlined at the top of the show. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is 617-297-8388. Let's do some text. 978, thank you. He says he thinks that the Patton, General Patton's quote, no one wins a war dying for their country, but making the other die for his country. But I think he said the other son of a bee on that. And the object of the war is not to die for your country, but to make the other bastard die for you. That's the quote. So he must have gone and looked it up. Thank you very much. I knew it was something like that. Yeah.
You know, when this business of terms of engagement came out, one of the expressions that I heard from a former Army Ranger was, we're not here to fix things. We're here to break things and kill people.
That's it. And Hexeth was pretty clear about getting back to the warrior ethos, right? The mentality there of the warrior. I have to address another text. And Jim from Worcester, thank you for listening. Clearly you do. And you're welcome in the Peter Blute thing. But I've got to say, I certainly never blocked you. We don't have the ability to technically block phone numbers. So that just didn't happen. But in the break, I was like, hey, Ted, what's up with this? And he reminded me that at one of your calls, you were cut off and told not to call back, at least for that day, because you had crossed the line, Jim. You were threatening people of things like you got to hunt them down. You can't come on to an FCC-regulated airwave and threaten people or be violent. Not only is it against the FCC rules, but it's against the policy of the station. That's why you were told. That's why the phone call was terminated, and you were told not to call back that day in that session because you stepped over the line. You can't do that. I challenge you on this, that I don't let people express what they want to express. I think I do a pretty good job of letting people who even don't agree with me talk. And then I'll address what they had to say and explain to them why they're wrong. But I don't do it because I don't like what you're saying. Now, I don't like what you're saying when you get violent and you say these people should be hunted down and killed or anything along that line. It's just not acceptable. In addition to being against FCC rules. And yeah, you may call Hank and Ben or whatever in the morning, but do you do the same conversation? And if you did, they would terminate your call too. And if they didn't, I would need to have a talk with them. You're not allowed to do that. You're welcome to call anytime, but you cannot threaten people, even if it's blindly threatening, not even an individual, just saying like you did that time, Trump supporters or people who voted this way or people who don't agree with you. That is what was going on there. Okay. Otherwise, you got the number 508-871-7000. And you're certainly welcome, again, if you keep it respectful, polite, and don't throw any kind of threats out there anytime you'd like. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. So tomorrow, April Fool's Day, I'll have to come up with something, right? April 1st, tomorrow, again, another SCOTUS story here, because the court's going to hear initially the oral arguments tomorrow. And this is the Trump versus Barbara. And this has to do with Trump's executive order 14160. And he signed that in January. Actually, he signed this on his very first day in office. He was sworn in, and he signed this as one of the first acts as his second term as the 47th president. And I told you, this man thought about his second term for 4 years, which is why this administration has been moving at lightning speed in accomplishing a tremendous amount. And I know people want to spin that, but legitimate political pundits, observers, consultants, whatever you want to call us, that that are even on the left admit that this administration is accomplishing record amounts of things in a short amount of time. Even some former Biden officials have been quoted as saying, why couldn't we have a president that would move this fast on this stuff? But the point is, day he was sworn in, he signed 14160. And you probably know this is the Birthright Citizens Executive Order. And the order directs federal agencies not to recognize or issue citizenship documents for children born in the United States if their mother was unlawfully present at the time of birth and the father is not a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. Or if the mother was lawfully here, all right, and temporarily present, meaning a student, they could be here legally. They're not hiding. They're here because they're on a tourist visa, a student visa, or a work visa. But those are visas. Those just say you can come visit the country for this specific purpose. You're not a resident here. You're not a legal resident. You're not a citizen. And what Trump is saying is, I don't think if you give birth to a child while you're illegally here, that child doesn't get citizenship because the act of you being here wasn't within the confines of the law to begin with. You're illegally here. This kind of goes back to, one of the oldest principles in common law, the fruit of the tree. So if you're not legally here, how do we recognize your child as a citizen when you're not a citizen and you're not legally on this soil? You get that? Then the other part of it is saying you may legally be here, but you're traveling through. You're only here for a very specific purpose. It's to go to school. And when you're done with school, your visa says you go home. A tourist visa says you come to visit, go to our wonderful sightseeing locations, see our history, eat our food, enjoy our culture, and then get the hell out. Go home when your vacation's over. Or the work visa, who says as long as you're gainfully employed in the capacity in which the visa was issued, you can stay here. None of those give you citizenship. And he's saying if you have a child, well, on those, that child is a citizen of your country, not ours. Ted?
The key to the legislation when it was written had to do with something different. But
you mean the Constitution, the 14th
yes,
Amendment? Okay, yeah.
Yes. The significant point that's been discovered throughout the years is that if the parents and the child are under the jurisdiction of a foreign country or anybody other than the United States, then they're not considered a naturalized citizen.
And that is what they're focusing on right now, those words that are put into the amendment. Now, the amendment that made this the issue and has, to many people's abuse for citizenship, for being happy to be born here, get here. And let's have it. There are cartels, coyotes, and some criminal organizations who are literally marketing and selling the birthright package, where they take pregnant women, you pay a big fee, well, technically 20 G's, plus the expenses, to make sure that you are on American soil when you give birth, so that you've got a child with American citizenship, and then you got the anchor stuff going on. Let's put a pin in that for a moment. The original amendment for all this and was written was post-Civil War, and it was to give an easier pathway for slaves to be citizens. Because, first of all, some of them were taking here, against their will. I don't need to go into the history of that right this second. And then generations of slaves were born. But because up until the Civil War, they were considered chattel property, citizenship wasn't a thing. They were owned by somebody.
It was designed for the children of slaves.
Exactly. So that those children of slaves were automatically citizens, and it wasn't an issue for them. That was the purpose of it. It has been used to just simply say, if you are on American soil, then that's an American citizen. And that's the argument, exactly. Because if you are traveling here and you're on vacation and you happen to give birth, you do think, and I'm asking now, I want the feedback, 508-871-7000. Where are you on this? And if you're here illegally, is it even a question? If you're here illegally because you're not legally here, we don't recognize you in any form legally here. You're physically here. We can see you. We know who you are. But that doesn't mean you have any citizens' rights. And that goes across the board for a lot of things because, you know, these rallies that are happening, I haven't even touched the No Kings stuff this past weekend. But these rallies in the left, progressive again, they always want us to dumb down our language, our vocabulary. They want us, and I started to show my friend the movie 1984. And he has to stop. He wants to read the book, right? We were like 12, 15 minutes into it. And he said, you know what? Stop. This is something I think I want to read the book before I see the movie. I said, probably a good idea. Do that. But I was explaining to him then, and I'll review it now. It's the talk, right? It's double plus good. It's on good. So they want us to use vocabulary that they've deemed we must use, which would mean that there's no distinction between an illegal alien, which is the legal term in the statute, folks. Stop at the political correctness. That's actually what it's called, illegal alien, versus an immigrant. Ted, you jump on that?
In the war of propaganda, the big rule is you force people to use your lexicon.
Yeah, that's it. You use it in against the clock, but I'll get this out one more time because I've said it a zillion times if I've said it once. The little thing in the Constitution that guarantees freedom of speech means that not only can we say whatever we want to say short of fire in a theater, we're not forced to say anything. We can't be forced to say things we don't want to say, we don't believe, or compelled to say things, which means you can still use the official language that you have always known, and you don't have to use, and to borrow from it, newspeak from George Orwell. Stick with us. Final, fourth segment. Back 2 minutes, 10 seconds, folks.
WCRN Radio is thrilled to bring back a legendary voice, and now you can help tell the stories. Paul Harvey captivated millions with his unique style and unmistakable voice. By sponsoring the rest of the story, your brand can become a part of this rich tradition, and it links your business with a program that people love and trust. So don't miss this unique opportunity to grow your business while becoming part of something truly special. For sponsorship details, just go to WCRNradio.com.
Are you concerned about the future of health freedom in Massachusetts? Join us for the People's Health and Freedom Forum, a powerful one-day event bringing together leading voices in health, education, and personal freedom. On Saturday, April 18th from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. in Oxford, Massachusetts, you'll hear from experts including pediatrician Dr. Larry Pilevsky, analyst John Bodwin Sr., and other physicians, educators, and advocates working to restore integrity and choice in medical decision-making. You'll learn how to find healthcare practitioners aligned with your values, navigate mandates and exemptions, understand concerns surrounding COVID and mRNA policy, and explore alternative K-12 education options and EMF safety strategies. Your ticket includes a full day of speakers, lunch, and a happy hour to connect with others who care about health freedom. This event is hosted by Health Rights MA Advocacy and proudly sponsored by WCRN Radio. To stand with us as sponsors, email hello@healthrightsma.org. To get tickets, visit healthrightsma.org. Educate, organize, unite for freedom.
We invite you to listen each weekday to the Old Trailblazer broadcast with Pastor Albert Pendarvis.
Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Oh, my friend.
That's the Old Trailblazer broadcast with Pastor Albert Pendarvis each weekday on this station.
Heard every weekday at 5:45 a.m. on WCRN AM 830.
All right, folks, welcome back here. Fourth and final segment on this Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Reminding you, you can join the conversation for the time we have left together at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Text line 617-297-8388. And remember, this show is turned into a podcast when I get off the air. And that means you can subscribe to it like any other podcast wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, so many places, so many ways to do that. 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. Ken has been waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you?
Hello, Joe. Yes, this upcoming SCOTUS decision will be as impactful probably as the abortion Dobbs decision was.
Think they'll leak it?
Excuse me?
Think they'll leak it? It won't have the same effect as the Dobbs did, but
that we know of, that's only happened once. So I think it's a pretty solid. No, they're not going to leak it. But like any big Roberts decision, we know they're going to split the baby, meaning that there's many categories to which there is citizenship, and I think the most extreme on one side is going to go one way, and the most extreme on the other side is going to go the other way. But to get to that, I'd also like to review the 14th Amendment, what brought it about. I believe there was legislation in 1866, just a year after the end of the war, Civil War, by which to guarantee citizenship to newly freed slaves. So, if you were a slave, you're now free.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had, guess who tried to fight that? Southern Democrats.
Yeah.
Oh, the ones that are supposed to be so poor and hurl the racist comments to their opposition. Oh, no, they wanted the slaves not to get citizenship. They fought it, and guess what? They had, well, wait a minute, we're not going to let that, because they're thinking at the time, if the Southern Democrats get their way, eventually they're going to overturn the legislation. So we need to make an amendment.
Yeah.
So that's why they rushed to make an amendment in 1868. And yes, it was with only the idea that provided that you had your allegiance to the United States.
Yeah. And Ken, let me add into that, Ken, because there's those 5 words that are sprinkled in the middle of the 14th Amendment. And that's the crux, which from what I can understand, the administration's briefs are very strong, stronger than a lot of people thought. But those words, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And that's what it means. It means it demands full political allegiance and protection, not mere physical presence or subjugation of ordinary laws. So, to your point, where is your allegiance? Are you a citizen of another country? Where does your allegiance fall? Right? Where, that's the subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Are you under the jurisdiction of another country? That's a key part of this.
I believe there's as many as 5 different categories. And I didn't research it after calling because I just heard you bring it up. Like, okay, I remember this one from a year ago. I researched it. Like, okay, the one that should be easy. They don't, any give in to, no, you can't have birthright in this situation. The Dems are going to go ballistic over. They're going to call us everything in the book is going to matter. But the easiest one is, you know what? If you have a couple and within, a few days, they just cross the border. The famous, what do you call it, identity? This category is, I'm drawing a blank, but that's not going to cut it. In other words, if you're a citizen of whoever south of the border, anchor baby, that's the term.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the anchor babies, forget it. You know what? I can't imagine Robert finding a way of getting 5 people to agree that anchor babies are going to continue. No way possible.
Mhm.
So I think anchor babies are going to be out. You can't do that. The next level would be the tourist ones that you brought up. And that one I think will be a closer call, but what's the difference between a tourist baby or an anchor baby? To me,
Well, exactly. So let me ask you, Ken, have you, okay, because the Trump brief, or the administration's brief, rests squarely on a lot of, original public meaning in early English and American common law. In the narrow reading, I don't know if you ever heard of Wong Kim Ark.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. That was
So that's
1890.
Yeah. So that means limited to children of domiciled legal residents. So that's it. So in other words, domiciled legal residents to the parents who are legally living here legally. So they're citizens or naturalized citizens. All right. Now that's where the gray area is going to be, because part of this is if you're on a tourist visa, work visa, or what was the other student visa, you're legally here. But then we got to go back to where the allegiances are in those 5 important words that we talked about in the 14th Amendment, and that's subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So maybe the splitting the baby is an accurate projection or forecast or whatever because they might find the splitting it. But the makeup of the court, I think we know the couple who are absolutely going to be no matter what. A matter of fact, if you're eating an American hamburger in another country, you can claim citizenship. We got a couple on there that are going to go absolutely no matter what, in any circumstances they are. I say common sense is if you're illegally here, you don't get any of the legal benefits of being here. Ted?
The test case that tested the 14th Amendment was a diplomatic couple from a Japanese embassy had a child, and they wanted the child to be an American. And the court said, no, because your child and you are under the jurisdiction of a foreign government.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very simple.
And that's held forever.
Yeah.
So that goes way back, the original Constitution, which insinuated as much. Where I'm saying, I think this one we're going to lose. So the ones in which it's you weren't even asked. You just barged your way over the border and dropped the kid anchor. Nah, we're not going to allow that. And I don't think the tourists, because it's so temporary. But when you're talking about a student visa or a work visa,
I get what you're saying.
They're going to say
No,
that one.
you know what? I get what you're saying, because if you're here, because there are people, and I've met people, I don't know if I'd call them friends, they're acquaintances. You meet them and, you see them once in a while, might have a dinner once a year with them, who, they work for, they're engineers at Bose, right? Or they're in a bio research, but they're not citizens, but they've been here on work visas for like 20 years. And so the question is, really? So if they have a baby, they don't get to be an American citizen? Right now they do. There's going to be something. I think there'll be a distinction between a tourist visa and a student visa and a work visa. Maybe the time is put. I don't know. We'll see how this works out. But the oral arguments are starting today. That's the point of this. I think you and I are on the same page that illegals who make it over the border and have a baby, absolutely not. First of all, allowing that, Ken, creates this massive illegal enterprise of getting people here to have the baby. It creates this sense of urgency to get here illegally just to do that, because again, if you reach that level, then you win that round. It's, what I'm saying? I know I've likened, and I'm not trying to be funny or crass here, but like a big video game of getting over the border, and then you win prizes. And that's the thing. If a pregnant woman can get here and time it so she has the baby on here, then all these things open up. It becomes a anchor baby, and then you've got the chain migration. And because of that, the parents get to stay. Then the parents get to apply for the sisters and brothers to come in, the parents to come in. You see what I'm saying? And now all of these people are being forced upon the American citizenship and infrastructure where they didn't come through the normal way. And I know a lot of people have a problem with that. Bottom line, I think you and I agree on the same thing. If you're here illegally, it doesn't matter if you have a baby here. Again, your allegiance and that baby's allegiance, by nature of being your child, is to another country. You're not a citizen, and you're not legally recognized as being here.
Yeah, I predict they set a time cutoff somewhere between 6 months and a year.
So if you're here longer than, say, a year,
if you're getting a student visa, I think they're going to not change that, because that implies a full year. And
see, but I disagree with you.
As a child.
I understand what you're saying, that the court's probably going to find that, but I personally don't think that if you're here on a student visa, especially a student visa, you're literally here for the duration of the time you're here to study, and then you're supposed to leave the country. And if you first of all, if you happen to have a baby, my question is, why are you having a baby if you're a student? But that's another question. Ken, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. I don't think that if you have a child while you're on a student visa, that child should automatically be a citizen.
That child is under the jurisdiction of a foreign
Again, yeah, you're a citizen from another country who's only here for the purpose of an education. And if you fall in love with the country and you want to pursue your education here or work from your education here, then you change your visa. You apply. Chances are pretty good, because if you stayed out of trouble while you were a student and you behaved as a respectful citizen, the State Department's going to go, all right, we'll change your visa. But folks, this is going to wrap up the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, I will be in for Peter Blute in going forward starting Sunday, on Easter Sunday, that is. The show is a podcast. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, tuned in. You got it all, folks. But that wraps it up. Frankie Boya after the top of the hour, so stay tuned. But this does it for me, folks. So enjoy the rest of your day. Back here tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Joe out, folks.